Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for your patience. Still getting a little set up on some things here, getting acquainted. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Kelly, for being here as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing this footage and discussing it and seeing where it goes.
Yeah. So I figure we'll wait like a little bit. I don't know if anybody else is going to join in. It seemed like a hopping night on YouTube all of a sudden. So yeah, but regardless, we got some good stuff to look through for our own research. I hope you're interested in it as well, Kelly. I'm sure you'll be interested to see the warehouse. I don't know if you've ever looked at this stuff.
I have not. I mean, I've seen photos from it, but I have not watched the body cam of it. So,
Yeah, same with me. Like I haven't yet watched this yet, so it'll be my first time looking at it on video form with you guys. So that'll be good. Hi Muffy, hi Brooks. I hope you're feeling better, Brooks. Hi Crazy Crime Chick. Thanks for being here. Screaming Daisies, Brittany. I know there's not many in here, but I'm curious everyone's stance right now with Scott and everything. We did our last Scott live. I think it was like 2 weeks ago at this point. So it's been a minute, but last time we did a Scott live, it was the house, and we did the search warrant footage of the house, and we came to the conclusion that nothing seemed to be kind of out of place or like look suspicious in the house. And knowing that the dogs, the cadaver dogs and stuff, didn't hit in the house, for me, I really don't think any crime took place on their property. If anything, maybe the backyard, but even still, I guess there was no like trace of her scent like picked up like that. But the back door was unlocked. I think it's important to remember that. Hi, B Wayne. Hi, Molson Man. So I don't know. I'm still undecided. A lot of me leans towards guilty only because of the way he lies, and the Amber phone calls are pretty damning, and it just looks so bad. Like, knowing that his wife and child were, missing and gone at that point, and he's still continuing the affair. But again, it's like it comes back to that mentality of, just because he cheated, does that mean he actually, killed her? Especially knowing that he had a huge history of cheating. Like, we're not just saying like an affair here and there. Like, it was like continuously. We know about at least 3 of them. And we know that Laci knew about at least one of them. And that was before they were married. Or no, it was after they were married.
Right. And I'm with you. Like, yeah, after. But one at least was before, right? When they were dating, before they were married, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Like when they were in college or something.
There was one. Well, regardless. So he's a habitual cheater. So, it's like, did the disappearance of his wife just happen to align with another affair, like coincidentally and unluckily, or was it in fact what the prosecution said, and he just wanted, to be free of the wife and child and move on with the mistress? So I'm still kind of like, I don't know. It's very, very hard because I'm in all these Scott Peterson Facebook groups, and I join the ones that are, think that he's guilty too. I like to get both sides, and I collect my information from both sides. Those who think he's 100% innocent and those who think he's 100% guilty. And it's the only way that I can kind of navigate through this. And I will have to say that the Scott Peterson groups and all that are much worse and combative than the Watts groups. Like, people are very like adamant on their belief in Scott, and somebody like me who is in the middle and undecided doesn't really fit in. And I've sensed that they don't like that. Like, basically, if I told an innocent group that I was undecided, they're a little bit more nice. But if I told a group that thinks he's guilty that I'm undecided, they assume that I'm working for the other team who thinks he's innocent. And it's like, no, like, I just want to know what you guys think. And So if we have trolls in tonight, it might be because I shared this live in some of the Scott Peterson groups, and I was already getting some nasty comments in the Facebook groups. So mods, I don't know if you guys are ready, but there might be some people who chime in and, which is fine. I told them, like, come and give me your opinion. Like, I want people in the chat who think he's innocent, and I want people in the chat who thinks he's guilty,
Yeah. And that's like, I think with this case so far, I was really starting to research it, and then summer came. So my kids are kind of taking all my time right now, but all I know so far, and I have started to read trial transcripts and things like that. But I think if you were going off of his behavior, that screams guilt. And then the lies he told, there are lies he told, obviously. It's like, why did he tell him? Is it because he was nervous or whatever? Or is it because he's guilty? But yeah, I'm the same. I like hearing from both sides, people who think he's innocent, people who think he's guilty, and then people who are undecided as of now, which is where I am. I do want to know, like, why he lied, what his motive was for that. His behavior was off, everything like that. I do agree with. But then when I start to think about forensic evidence and things like that, it's just not very clear, I guess. And I understand there's so many cases that convict on circumstantial. But yeah, so that's why I'm still just wanting to work through it all. And yeah, I like to read both sides as well.
Right. And that's the thing is, like you said, the behavior looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And when you link in the fact that there's another woman, it makes you wonder if the behavior has anything to do with, or just has to do with the affair that he's hiding or trying to, like, tread water with. Like, it seemed like he was like, he didn't want to, like, break things off immediately with Amber. It was like, why is he dragging this out? I mean, it's hard to say. But B. Wayne, I still have a huge problem with the robbery. Exactly. And I'll remind everybody again, Laci's brother, when he had heard about the robbery, he sort of was thinking, like, well, that makes sense then. It's like, if there's a crime going on right across the street, then of course it could have trickled into, Laci being around there, and it's like, do I think that she wanted to confront the robbers and say, hey, what are you doing? No, I don't think that. I think that it's just possible that she just, was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Or I've even leaned towards, the robbers looked at her as a hot commodity as well, in a way of the black market. And this is just dark, but it's the reality of life that, people get abducted and their organs and even their babies are sold on the black market. So, I mean,
yeah,
you just don't know what these types of criminals were like. There was 5 of them and only 2 of them got captured or, arrested. So it's just very suspicious. And people like to denounce the robbery as nothing, or they like to say that it wasn't on that day, on the 24th, but I will always think that it was the 24th. I feel like as soon as the disappearance took place, that it would have just been stupid for robbers. I mean, and almost impossible for them to be in the neighborhood and conduct something like that with the news crew and the cops and all that around. So, and it's just, the robbery is always something that's always on my mind. As far as the eyewitnesses that saw her walking the dog, I mean, these are all things that are just very, like, confusing. And this case is very confusing because there's a lot of things that aren't true, and then the things that are true are disturbing. And we'll get to that, like, as we go through this. So basically, the day after they did the search warrant at the house, they also did the search warrant at his warehouse. And hi, Amanda. Hi, Mike, and everyone else who's joined. Thank you for being here. Hi, Rosie. So they go on the 27th to the warehouse, and they just scope around, and we're about to look at that right now. But I just think it's important for people to realize that this was during the day that he went there on the 24th. And yes, it was Christmas Eve, and I'm not sure if there were other people at the warehouse on that day or if it was like closed and empty and vacant because it was Christmas Eve. I'm really not sure on those details, but it was during the day. And he left his house around 9:30. Well, it says that it falls between 9:30 and 10:30. He lives 9 minutes away. And on that drive, he checked his voicemail, and everything is confirmed like on digital forensics. And at 10:08 is when he like listened to his voicemail. And then he parked at the office and entered through the pedestrian door. So we will look at that right now. Was there anything you wanted to say before I start the footage?
I think when we look at this, just to remember how they made it seem like, and again, this might be another controversial thing, but that Laci didn't know about the boat. But there was a witness who saw Laci at the warehouse with Scott, and Laci asked to use this other person's restroom because she couldn't get back to the one in Scott's warehouse. So
yeah, so I think that that's an important thing, excuse me, that needs to be kind of like ironed out. Like everyone likes to say that she had no idea about the boat. He bought it behind her back. That's sketchy. But like you said, she was at the warehouse. The warehouse is big, but it's filled with a bunch of fertilizer. So there isn't room for his truck to butt back in. And it's not like he could have hid the boat from Laci. So I believe that she knew about the boat as well.
Right.
So here we go. And we can pause it and all that whenever. I do have the baby in my arms. She's supposed to be asleep. But of course, today, every time I go live, she never wants to sleep in her normal schedule. So if I don't respond to chat, I'm sort of like away from the screen, but like close enough where I can kind of see it. So just bear with me. But here we go. So I'm just going to pause it here because first off, this is nothing like I expected the warehouse to look like. Like when I saw the futon and it just looks interesting. So, okay, yeah, B. Wayne, her organs could have been removed by ocean wildlife. Yeah, that is what the prosecution alleges. However, like a lot of their theory, it's never been scientifically proven. She was only in the water. I mean, it was 4 months, but at the same time, you know, something that we're going to dig into is decomp and stuff like that. I just have a hard time believing that her limbs and her head all came off from ocean life and from, you know, tidal waves. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert, obviously, but it's just never been proven. So I can't help but be skeptical of it. So,
yeah. And when you get into the medical examiners, I mean, it's just very different opinions that some have given.
And we'll end up doing another live.
Yeah, who testified. And even just who.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
at 10:30 to 10:56, since we're looking at his computer, he told the police that he checked his email and sent one email to the boss that had sent that voicemail on his way over. So the computer forensics showed that Scott continuously logged onto his work computer for 26 minutes between 10:30 and 10:56. So from 10:30 and 10:56, it's been confirmed that he's, hopping on the computer. I'm assuming sitting there, we have to remember that by the prosecution's theory, at this point, he's what? Loading her body into from the back of the truck where the umbrellas are to the boat, which is in here, all while checking his emails.
Yeah.
So,
And sending Christmas greetings to his boss.
right. I mean, is it possible? Possibly, but I'm just trying to paint the picture as they described it. So we're to believe that he is loading her into the back of the boat or in the boat. It's not even hooked up to the truck yet. And, she's already been dead, according to the prosecution. So, and doing the emails. So he checked an email, sent an email, and looked up instructions on how to assemble a woodworking tool called a mortiser that he had just received via UPS. And all that has been confirmed as far as like the UPS box and all that. So there is approximately from 10:57 to 11:17. There's 20 minutes from when Scott logged off the computer to when he left the warehouse. So he alleges during that time he cleaned up the office, which is weird because the desk looks a bit messy. But who knows what it looked like before. So he cleaned up the office and he assembled that mortiser. He opened the roll-up door to the warehouse and unloaded some tools from the toolbox that he had in the bed of his truck. While he was doing that, he cut his knuckle, and on his driver's side door, there was confirmation that there was blood that belonged to Scott. So that lined up with his story that was from him cutting himself from that toolbox. So it says to support Scott's statement, evidence showed that Scott had just received the mortiser on the 20th and it was already assembled. And he had looked up the instructions that day. So in my mind, he's not going to look up instructions for something that's already been set up, and it was proven to be set up already. So I think that he really did set it up on that day. What do you think?
I agree. And thank you, B. Wayne. He sent you a super sticker.
Oh, thank you, B. Wayne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree because, I mean, he straight up said, like, there's going to be blood on the inside of the door, and that he did have a cut. It wasn't a lot of blood. Yeah, I do think it, according to the timeline, and I think he did set it up. That's my opinion, that he built it that day.
And if he has Laci in the back of the truck during broad daylight, we're just imagine the scene.
Yeah.
That would mean that he's dragging her from the back of the truck, through the pedestrian door because I don't know, maybe he opened it up, but either way, this is broad daylight. We're saying.
Yeah.
So, all right, carrying on. since we're running through some theories, the state that her body was in, people saying that her head and limbs were off and her organs were missing because of the waves and the aqua life. I have also heard people speculate that he might have, removed those parts of her himself. And to that, I just say, if that's the case, and this was the scene that he did all that in, there would be trace of blood. And there was nothing detected in the warehouse, and the cadaver dog didn't alert at all to the warehouse or the truck.
Dear Power,
Oh, come on.
Yeah. I agree
So I don't know
about
if
that. And I have
thinks,
seen people mention that theory. And yeah, I agree. I don't think that he could have done that. There would have been evidence. I'm with you on that.
And that's the problem with the prosecution's theory, is a lot of it just doesn't really they didn't prove it, it was very damning, the affair, and it sounded good. And he, like you said, his behavior looked terrible. So now that the case is over and people question things, there have been people who have said like, oh, he cut her body up himself, that's why, and this and that. And so it's very, there's a lot of gray area in this case. And I feel like people don't really know because they just assume that he's guilty and that they proved it, but it was never proven. There's no forensics. Oh, snowboard. That's weird. I didn't know he snowboarded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's just no way that he would have been able to remove her head and limbs and organs here in the warehouse. Hi, Valerie. And thank you everyone who joined recently. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So I want to know in
There's
chat.
a lot of stuff in there for sure.
Yeah. And so that's what their house was like too. Like they had a lot of stuff. I would like to know in chat how many believe that things were taken and missing on her body due to the aqua life. So if you think that that's possible, press 1. If you're skeptical of that and want to know more about that, press 2. Because I'm not sold that that's happened because of the aqua life and the waves and tides.
Sure. Yeah, I want to know more about it. What about, didn't Evelyn Hernandez, the other pregnant woman who washed up in the same area, didn't her body appear very similar?
Yeah.
So it's like,
that makes, yeah.
Do they always
go ahead.
like that? No, I was just going to say, does Ocean Life always, it just seems like if they were similar, it's just kind of a coincidence. I don't know.
It is weird because it's like, was it similar because that's what happens, But we have to remember, this isn't a wide open ocean. This is the San Francisco Bay. So you have to realize that, the currents and the force and all that, like, I mean, it would be different, I would say. I mean, it's not, I just don't know, I'm honestly not sure. From things that I've seen, it would take a lot more than 4 months for stuff like that to kind of happen and decay and fall apart in the ocean. But again, I mean, I'm not a scientist and the prosecution never proved it. So I can't help but, question.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all these pallets and stuff, this is fertilizer.
Wow.
Yeah, and if he was going to do something like, drag her body in there, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there would have been ways for him to hide behind these things and do it. But I just don't know because the boat isn't behind all this stuff. The boat is in front of all this stuff. We'll see it eventually.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the biggest thing for me is, okay, so he has her body, deceased body in the truck. He allegedly put these umbrellas on it, had it wrapped in a tarp. And then he allegedly took the body from the truck into the warehouse. Again, he could not back his truck up and conceal the bed of the truck. So he would have had to move her and then into the warehouse, into the boat. It just seems like a lot. On top of, there is solid proof he was on his computer sending in emails. The wood mortiser tool, in my opinion, he did build it that morning. So it just seems like a lot. And then whether you believe like she was still in the truck when he was doing the computer stuff or in the boat, either way, it's just a lot of time for a deceased body to just be sitting there. And even driving, I think it isn't a 90-minute drive to the fishing spot.
Yeah.
So it just seems like a lot. I know Molson Man, Watts couldn't hide his bed either.
If she's in the back of the truck while he's doing the emails and putting together that tool, I guess that's possible. But then that would also mean that he's just sitting in there, la-di-da, while her dead body is just out in daylight in his truck.
Yeah. And maybe he's willing to take those risks, but it just seems risky, especially the drive and everything.
Oh my gosh, Amanda Vita, I saw that Lifetime
hooked to
movie.
A trailer on a truck. Like that's. Oh my goodness.
Wait, what was that movie? It was like an underwater garden that he had of like women. Oh my gosh, I remember that movie. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like the temperature of the water, that could probably preserve the body for a little bit, maybe. It's just so hard. It obviously would take science and stuff like that. But, we also have to remember, if we're going to talk about science, is they used sonar equipment, a grid search and all that. So they didn't find her body for weeks. So it's all just weird.
And yeah, to me, Amanda, this crime would make more sense if she was somehow alive in the front of his truck, tied up and gagged until the end. And then he killed her right at the warehouse, got her in somehow. I don't know. It would make more sense to me, but the prosecution claimed he killed her at home. So that's what I'm going off of. But yeah, I mean, force, had her tied, gagged, whatever. It'd be easy for him to maneuver her. But
yeah. And that's the thing, is like, it could have been so many other ways that it actually was done, but the prosecution for some reason went with this theory. It worked for them, obviously, but it's just, there's no science, there's no forensics behind it. So it's just, I just have a hard time. And okay, so this is the boat. I don't know if Florida Bass is still in chat, but it's not a big boat. It's not big at all. And look at all this stuff. I mean, I'm not saying that all this stuff was in there on the 24th, but it's just not big.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
She agrees. It's kind of like, she's like, yeah. Yeah, and he bought it. I mean, again, I understand it's the family, Scott's sister-in-law has her opinions, her beliefs, but she's like, he didn't buy this boat. They claim he bought this boat because he was going to murder Laci and throw her into the bay. I just feel that if he was going to do that, he would have bought a bigger boat and came up with a better plan. I don't know.
Yeah, especially if we're going to consider that there were anchors made and used to weigh her down. So we're talking about adding more weight. And okay, so that was the end of the video. So it really isn't that long. But there's some other things that I want to show. But yeah, like you said, like, why, if this was all premeditated to be put into the bay, why wasn't he buying a bigger boat with anchors and stuff like that? If we're talking about physics, it easily could have turned bad. Like, he could have gone overboard trying to get her overboard, then what?
Yeah.
Then he's in the middle of the bay and he's got to explain to whoever rescues him or however he gets back, like, oh yeah, my boat sunk. Like that would just raise so much attention.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, who everyone knows is the expert fisherman. That's a tiny boat, but I could see him rolling her, then tying her to the weights while in the water. The weights were only 10 pounds. Yeah, the weights were only 10 pounds. So, but with Scott being 200 pounds, Laci being 150, we're talking over 300 pounds if he's putting her over the side. So, as we've seen in the reenactment video, which is on my channel, the reenactment one is unsuccessful. The person falls into the water, or, the boat's just not sturdy. It's just very hard because they didn't allow that footage into the trial. So it's hard to say why that they decided not to. Maybe they thought like, no, it wasn't done the way that they, that the way that Scott did it. So I don't know. It's just hard.
I just wish we could have another reenactment because so many people say that reenactment was not fully legit, things like that. I'm like, why can't we just get another one and do it again and see what happens? It just curiosity.
I know. And that technically was one of the only scientific experiments done in this case, and it wasn't allowed. Oh, hi.
And
Mrs.
then see, that's another thing. People say hello. And he's that they're like, well, Scott wasn't a fisherman. Well, I think he doesn't seem like he was, because wasn't this boat not really made for saltwater? He didn't have bait for saltwater, things like that. So I don't know. It's just I don't know. It just makes me really wonder if maybe just playing devil's advocate, if say he's innocent and this really was a gift for his, or not a gift, but a surprise for his father-in-law to maybe do something with him or whatever. And she's so sweet. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I just wish there was more forensic evidence. That's all. Kelly, what if he was using artificial bait? See, I know nothing about that. I just know that people have said he didn't have the right bait.
Yeah, and that is suspicious, that, and Lauren, I'm not sure if he would get out. I feel like it would be interesting to see the retrial and just go through things again, and then see where it goes.
Yeah, I know he's been denied a couple times. I know they are still trying. He did get death penalty overturned. They were going to retry and go for death again, but the state decided not to do that. They're just going to give Scott life without parole. But the family is still trying. I think it's called a habeas corpus, and it's a big document of whatever, another appeal type thing. So, I mean, yeah, there is still a chance that he could get a new trial, but we don't know yet when or if it'll ever happen. I don't know when his next court date or whatever is, but I know they are still trying.
Yep. And again, if they want to try and he's found guilty, then that's great. He's already in prison, and everyone can sleep well knowing that he's been where he's needed to be. I just think that there's nothing wrong with going back over it, and that's why we have these things in the justice system, just in case. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your support. So
this is saying, that he's going to go, and then Peterson will either be sentenced to life for the murder of his wife, or a habeas hearing will decide whether he should be given a new trial.
Oh. Okay.
So, I guess, but the habeas thing hasn't been presented yet, I guess.
So, yeah, I think we're still waiting to see. So this is just a drawing of the warehouse. This shows you the size of it and how it was filled. If it was premeditated, I think that he would have, moved some of the crates and kind of like shimmied her back there and had more like privacy. You know what I mean? Let's say if she's alive, if we're going to go with the theory that she showed up at the warehouse tied up or whatever, um, being at the front to kind of do the dirty work and kill her or whatever, it's kind of risky in my opinion. Like, I don't know. It's just like there was so much room. You would think that possibly he could have done something behind the crates and they would have picked up on scent or something. Amanda, I hate him. And that's why I like
Yeah.
Amanda's
I mean, either
opinion
if
here.
he's innocent or guilty, I don't like him either. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he was
Yeah.
a scumbag.
Yep. He was.
So yeah, did anyone else think that the warehouse, I mean, to me the warehouse, I didn't expect it to look like this. What did you think?
It was more officey than I expected, and it just seemed more. I guess it makes sense that it was full, but yeah, seeing it just seemed very packed tight in there. Not a lot of room to maneuver around.
Yeah, I agree. And yes, Lauren, I agree too. I think CDT, we want to highlight that case of that other pregnant woman and kind of talk about that one and, just compare similarities or, just talk about her because I think that she probably doesn't get looked at in a way that she might have just been forgotten about.
Yeah, you really don't hear a lot about her case at all.
Okay, so 11:18 to 12:54. Scott left the warehouse about 11:18 to drive to the Berkeley Marina. It took him about an hour and a half to get there. And he was pulling in the trailer. And apparently there were people at the marina who had seen him having a hard time pulling into like loading at the dock or whatever it's called. Florida's probably like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Whatever he was doing to get the boat into the water, he was having a hard time. And I guess people witnessed that whole thing and kind of were laughing at him. So here's my thing about that, right? So he's being visualized as backing into the bay and then straightening out. I mean, you know what it's like when you're trying to back something in, you pull forward and then you back up again and you're turning the wheel. And, apparently he had made a scene. So my opinion is if he was dumping his dead wife into the bay and she's already dead in the back of the truck, wouldn't it be like better for him to just like kind of like gun it, like back up however he could and just do it however it looked and get that boat into the water as quick as he could? So when I hear that he was, having a hard time and people witness that, it kind of is like, it doesn't sit well with me because I'm like, so then we're to assume that he spent even more time like with her dead body and was like trying to back in precisely. And, he's there longer and more seen and kind of causing attention to himself in a way because people had commented on that about it. So again, just plain devil's advocate, like why, if he's, loading her body and all that, like you would think it was just like however he backed up would have just been how it was.
Right. I think it's interesting that those people saw him and they said that they joked with him. And it's like all the while he supposedly had her body. I don't know. It just doesn't, again, feel like beyond a reasonable doubt that's how it happened, at least where I am right now. I don't know. It just seems so risky. But some people take risks. And if she was in the tarp, but then the tarp they say she was in, the dogs didn't, react or alert to it. So I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is the boat not being big and it being clear that, if something was under a tarp in the boat, I feel like witnesses would have seen that and been like, oh, I'd seen, but nobody specifies anything unusual visualized in the boat. I don't know. It's just, I just have a hard time picturing him, like B. Wayne said, jackknifing and drawing attention to himself in broad daylight and then having to believe that her body's in the back. I mean, maybe, and
Yeah.
he's just trying desperately to just whatever. But at the same time, then why take a minute? But I guess if he's jackknifing, it's like he can't get it in the water anyways. I don't know. Let's say that it is true, that she's in the back of his truck and he's having a hard time backing it up. Can you imagine the panic?
And I want to look into the witnesses who saw him. There was a podcast again. I need to fact check, but it seemed like I don't know that they were called to trial. I need to look into that.
Yeah, no, you're correct. There were 14, I believe, altogether. And people who had called and did like a tip line, they had stated, and we can do a whole live about the witnesses, the eyewitnesses, but they had stated that they called into the tip line, but then never got a call back. Like they were expecting that a detective would call them back and be like, "Hey, thanks for calling," like a tip line. What's the information or what did you see? And I guess there are eyewitnesses who said that they had seen her and they're confused why they never got a call back.
Right.
So there's just like little things like that are just very, it's hard because you don't want to believe the certain things that you hear about this case, but it just makes me question things even more. Like, so the pliers that they found in the bottom of the boat when they did that search warrant had Laci's hair on the pliers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the only pieces of physical evidence, I guess, linking Laci to the boat. So that's pretty damning, right?
Mm.
Then we find out.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, not so far to me, but go ahead.
Right. No, and then in our research, we end up finding out that after they had gone to the house and done their search, they basically, the lead detective was they found weeks later Laci's hairbrush in his work drawer, and the hairbrush had not yet been listed in evidence. So if we remember the OJ case, which I know Florida Bass is an expert in that case too, there was planted evidence, or there was shady police work that there was allegedly planted evidence there, right? If I remember correctly. But basically, why did he have her hairbrush in his drawer and not log the hairbrush into evidence until weeks later? And then we end up finding a single strand of hair of hers in the pliers in the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like proper protocol to keep something in a drawer like that. I wonder how. Yeah, I know that they were saying, like, how did it happen? I mean, hairs can transfer I mean, I don't know. Hi, Seth.
Hi, Seth. Thanks for being here. Oh, you're leaving?
Oh, I'm going to bed.
Well, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah. So the hair again. I don't know. So she was never in the boat. I mean, there was no bodily fluids. The dogs did not hit on the boat. It was just the hair in the pliers. But yeah, I mean, defenses have said that could have just been a transfer hair type thing that was on Laci. I mean, on Scott from Laci.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's
No,
troubling is the hairbrush being in his drawer. I mean, I just don't know, guys. Like, and again, I am in these Facebook groups and they're coming at me like, why are you even questioning things? And it makes me question how they can't question the little things like that. Like, yes, he's a scumbag and a liar and his behavior looks terrible, but why was the hairbrush in the detective's drawer and her hairbrush then found, or her hair then found in some pliers, you know?
Mm-hmm. And okay, going back to the boat and the fact that Laci did visit the warehouse. We don't know if she looked in the boat. I mean, just because she didn't tell friends or family, like, hey, I went to Scott's warehouse, he bought a boat. Maybe it was supposed to be a surprise for Ron or whatever, or she just chose not to share it. I mean, we don't know what exactly she did while visiting the warehouse with Scott. She could have leaned in, she could have got in alive. I mean, we just don't know for sure. And I think it's interesting that, okay, Al Brocchini, the lead detective, he admitted that he did not include in a transcript that a taped, or he didn't include a taped interview of the witness who said he saw Laci use the bathroom at her husband's warehouse on December 20th when she visited the warehouse. So he purposely left that out. And then in Chris' examination, Garagos called him on that. But it's like, why is he omitting that? And in my opinion, it's because they wanted to go with the narrative that it's this secret boat that Laci had no idea about, a secret purchase, etc.
Right.
It's interesting, though. He admitted that he didn't include that information in his written report initially.
Yeah, that is interesting because it's like the boat is clearly, you can't miss it. So if she was at the warehouse after he'd got the boat, I mean, she clearly knew he had a boat.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to say that it is how the prosecution says and she didn't know about the boat, it's just, and then we find out that they didn't or show that witness who saw her there. It's like, why are they, like you said, omitting something? It's just, I just don't understand it. And Florida said that he could have dumped her out the side of the boat. And I appreciate Florida's opinion because obviously he's the expert on fishing and boats and all that. So I really do appreciate his input. And, you know, when I look at the defense boat footage, it is kind of like, really, like, it almost seems like they're over dramatizing the fact that like it wouldn't work. What do you think?
Yeah, that's why I wish there could be another reenactment. And again, it's not only like he would have had to get her out of the boat. It was a lot of lifting a dead body for Scott if they did it how he claimed. I just think he would have been tired. I understand adrenaline, but you know, I just feel he would have been tired, worn down.
Yeah, and
things like that. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I wish they would do another reenactment.
He wasn't in good shape either. Like he was kind of like a doughboy. I mean, no, I'm not body shaming, but I'm just saying it. Like Chris Watts, people argue that it was possible for him to load Shanann because he's in fit physique. And I could see, you know, yeah, he's in good shape. You know, he's got muscle. Yeah. I look at Scott in the beginning of the case and he's very, he just looks out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, is it possible with adrenaline? Absolutely. I think adrenaline is definitely something that can, oh, bye, B. Wayne. Thanks for being here. Okay. Have a good day at work.
Yeah. Good night.
So, it's just, there's no evidence, like science-wise. Open minds, the weights pulled her arms, legs, and head off. That is what they're alleging. Yes. Yeah, that's what is theorized. And it's possible if that other pregnant woman went missing and she showed up or turned up in the same state, then is that just something that Aqua Life takes care of? Possibly. I think that we're going to dig a little bit deeper into her state and her body, because I don't want to misquote, but from what I've read, it looks like she had some sort of makeshift cesarean section possibly tried on her. There's like a cut on her abdomen. I don't know. I got to look more into it, and we're going to present it together on a different live, and we'll go into depth about all that. But, it's possible, I guess. It is possible if they could prove it, if that's how that other woman showed up in the state that she was in, then we have two people that came up in the bay and Aqua Life took their limbs and head off.
Right. Mrs.
It's just very hard.
It is hard. Yeah, it is. Yeah, he's okay. But didn't investigators do a reenactment and determine the boat couldn't hold all that weight?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the defense's reenactment, it capsized every time.
Yeah, it wasn't the investigators that did the reenactment. It's the defense team. So his lawyers and all that put together some team. I also think that it's important, and we touched on it a little bit in another live regarding this case, that the manufacturer of the boat basically said it wouldn't be possible to do that without it capsizing. So, I don't know. Don't know. And that's the thing. That's the problem with this case. We don't know. I would like to see other cases where, and I know that there's other bodies that have showed up from being in the water for 4 months. I mean, are they missing the limbs and all that?
Right. Like what % are versus aren't, and where do they go missing? Right. It would just be interesting to see statistics on that.
I agree. So for this, does it say pictures of the alleged anchor factory on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
So that is in quotes, because in my research, I found out that the media kind of gave it that name, an anchor factory. And everyone kind of like hopped on that name being like the truth, how like that's just how media is. So they allege that, like we were saying earlier, the anchors were made and used to weigh down her limbs and her head, and they were 10 pounds each. However, we never seen an anchor besides the one that was in the boat that Scott admits that he made. What do you think about the anchors? Again,
I mean, this is another piece, in my opinion, of circumstantial evidence. I mean, not circumstantial, but circumstantial where it's not enough for me beyond a doubt with what they showed to believe that that was his goal. He was upfront about why he decided to purchase and make the concrete instead of buying it a different way, and had a receipt that proved how much he spent. And when he spent it for this concrete, I don't know. I just don't feel that. I don't know. And it's like, why didn't they find the anchors? If they sunk down, wouldn't they have been able to be recovered? Again, I'm not an expert with the water and the ocean and how searches in there work. But like you said, sold that's what he did.
Right.
It's just me.
And we're not talking about just sonar stuff that you buy. I don't even know where you would buy it. But basically, the FBI was working this at that point. And we can get into the sonar and all that on another time or whatever. But just keep in mind that we're talking about top of the line equipment and workers. Like, this isn't just volunteer people. Like, this is the FBI. They're divers. They're professionals. They know what they're doing. And they didn't find her to begin with. Like, they didn't find her. And they didn't find the anchors. So if again, they did the search right when she went missing. So maybe her body wouldn't have come off. And I hate speaking this way, but that's what they say. Maybe she would have still been anchored to the floor of the bay. I don't know. But either way, they don't find her. They don't find a single anchor. They still never found a single anchor. They found other things in the bay, like that you can find pennies. That's how good this sonar is, So
right.
I just don't understand it.
Yep.
And that's the other problem, is the science in this. And like, I believe that the cadaver dogs are a science. Like, I would consider that as something, and I do when I do research, I take that into consideration for sure, because I trust a dog's nose. I don't know about you or anybody in chat, but I would trust that dogs know what they're smelling for. And, if something was dead, that they would obviously smell it. We've been using dogs for thousands of years for a reason. And the science in the dog thing doesn't show the prosecution was correct. And the science for the sonar doesn't show the prosecution was correct. So what am I to believe, And the boat reenactment got thrown away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that Molson man that he was watching the bay. I know. And that's the thing with this case. I feel like and that's with a lot of true crime cases, except the ones that are pretty slam dunk evidence. So yeah, Florida's saying that they didn't distribute the weight properly. And because it was done by the defense, which I can understand that thinking. Like, of course, the defense is going to want it to capsize.
Exactly. Otherwise, it would have been a terrible defense, and they still were a terrible defense.
Yeah,
because that maybe make it look better. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that they should fake the science in it, but we can pull up the boat one after this too, because this isn't really that long. But Molson man. And that's the thing, is like, those things that he does, like Kelly said, his behavior, like, wow, not good at all. Like, why were you watching the investigation happen? Mm-hmm. Like, that looks so bad.
Yeah.
Like, and did he even like partake? He was like very much behind the scenes in like all the volunteer work too. I mean, obviously hiding from Amber, he didn't want her to see him on the news,
Yeah, like he was part of it, but he made sure his face wasn't out there. He took down things if it had his face. Maybe and weird behavior.
But at the same time, if he's innocent, but he's just super like thinking like they think I did it. Like he starts getting paranoid maybe. Remember, he dyed his hair and he said because he was hiding from the press. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. It looks very bad.
Say that again. Sorry.
I'm just trying to like give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe he's thinking like, I would need to know what they're going to say, because they're already trying to pin me and I have nothing to do with it. So I need to know what they know so that they can't try to pull like this interrogation thing where like, they back me in a corner. So maybe he's thinking like, let me be in the know. Like, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, and explain his poor behavior, which is,
Yeah, and maybe he changed his appearance because it was purely because of the media, not that he was trying to evade law enforcement, you know?
Right. And we can do a whole live on things that Scott did that look bad,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then we can go back and forth and say maybe it was because of this, and we can pick out all the bad stuff and play devil's advocate with every single one. I think that that's healthy to do when we don't have science to back anything up.
Right. And I think the fact that, they overturned Scott's death penalty, that's a big thing to do, in my opinion. They don't just do that for no reason. I mean, there was juror misconduct, um,
Right.
you know?
And it's just right. The juror misconduct is a whole other thing. And that's why we live in a country that has these, protocols, if you will, in the justice system. If something's not done right and it's your trial, wouldn't you want another one done where it was done correctly? It's just
Right.
like, but I don't know. I do feel bad for Laci's family. And it's just obviously, but I hate that that's the way that it is. But, if somebody's sitting in prison for all this time and something vindicates them and they're innocent, which has happened so many times, like you see all the time, somebody spent 15 years behind or 10 behind and they were innocent, and science or an appeal helped get them out. So, if he's innocent, then this is what he deserves, and every citizen and every person deserves. If he's guilty, then this will just solidify that.
Exactly. And everybody deserves to have a fair trial. And he did have a lady who sat on the jury who was a victim of a crime. So it's like, and she said she wasn't.
Right.
Did she go in with preconceived feelings and thoughts and things like that? I mean, again, that's why they have those checks in place. And she, whether you think she did it on purpose or by accident, not thinking of it, she did not fill out the form truthfully. And again, that's the main reason his death penalty was overturned. So, will there be another trial? Time will tell. But it's just interesting to go back over it.
And as far as I know, thank you, Shannon. I appreciate your support. As far as I know, every year that Charles Manson was behind bars, he did any appeal that he could. And I know that some of the people involved, the women, have been, trying anytime that they get a chance for parole or whatever. It's just what they do, and they get denied. And if it comes, I mean, that case is clear cut who did it, so that's why she's getting denied. This case, nothing like the Manson murders. And I want to do a Manson murder live or whatever. I know, like, that's one of the cases that you aren't as, like, I know that I've talked about it, and I'd like to bring you into it for like a live or whatever if I cover it in the summer.
Yeah. I don't know much. I mean, I know like the very, basics about it, but that's it.
Yeah. So summertime we can do that, but that's just clear as day. Like, even before they, because they do sort of, the women turn against Charles and they work for a lesser charge, basically. So
Right.
but that's just clear and cut, like what happened. So totally different. That's why they're getting denied. Scott's case, not clear and cut. You can't deny it.
Right. And I think that his defense, again, if he's guilty, like, I'm glad they didn't do, I just don't think his defense did a very strong presentation of their case. for Scott. I wish that they had, I don't know, the 14 witnesses. I mean, Garrigo says he regrets not calling them.
Well, yeah. If 14 people were saying the same story that vindicated like the timeline that was being alleged, that is just, but at the same time, that is why I got denied jury duty, which I think everyone knows is true, that two people could see something differently. Like I could say something was green and it was dark, it was black or something. It's just people, like the eyewitness perception, and I know everyone knows it, it's just basic true crime. The eyewitness perception just can't be always relied on. But we're talking about 14, so if it's one person's eyewitness and two persons, and maybe it's like, I don't know, we can't rely on that, I'm not going to call them forward. You know what I mean? But if you were on the jury and 14 people went up there and told you that what they saw, by the sixth person, wouldn't you be like, okay, this is boring. Like, why are we, like, I get it. Like, she was seen. Right. 14 of them?
Right. It's a lot. Yep. And then even remember the lady, I cannot remember her name, but she was pregnant and was either owned or working at a store, was outside. I think she said she was like 7 or 8 months pregnant, like very visibly pregnant, setting things up outside. 2 men stared at her in a car. She went in to the back. They came in, and then she called the police and they were gone. And she says to this day, she thinks they're responsible for Laci's murder. And that she's terrified for her life. That they just, it's horrifying. and they never called her back. They didn't follow up, she said.
Really? See, yeah, we got to go through the witnesses, don't you think?
Yeah.
If people want us to go through the eyewitnesses,
yes.
Say yes.
I think they all will.
Just sounds so
they
fun,
better.
Like.
I know. Yes or no.
But
yeah, because it seems like a lot.
Yeah. And nowadays, as the years go on, it's like those witnesses dwindle and dwindle. And we've seen that in the JFK assassination, where all those eyewitnesses that were telling what they saw, now they're dying. And it's not even just old age, death just happens. And it's like, oh crap, like I wanted to ask them something.
Yeah.
Now, this is very important that we can kind of go back and revisit these 14 people. Like, time is ticking, and justice takes a long time.
I want to know how long the jury deliberated in this case. I want to look that up.
I heard it was quick.
I heard that too. Yeah. I didn't want to say that because I want to know, but yeah, I heard people were saying that it just seemed fast.
Yeah. And his behavior looks bad.
Yep.
But not everybody thinks, and it's unfortunate because you're on the jury. Like, please, look into like the computer forensics and take it serious and look into, did they even know about the 14 witnesses? So it's just like not brought forward because the defense decides not to use it.
Right.
Oh my God.
I have to double check though. I'm not sure if they knew about witnesses who saw her walking or not. And then the mailman, the whole timeline there, like Garrigos was kind of off on that. You have the dog in the gate at 10:18 from the neighbor, and then the mailman doesn't hear the dog bark. So they were like, it kind of threw his as not credible in a way, because they were saying the timeline doesn't add up, where if the dog was returned, then the mailman should have heard it bark. But the lady who returned the dog, if you read her actual testimony, she says that she heard noise in the backyard, but the attorney, Garrigos, didn't say, what do you mean? Like, expand on what noise you heard. So my opinion is, like, Laci, let the dog out. If you think if she did walk the dog, then Scott has to be innocent. So just the other side, like, she lets the dog out. she goes back in real quick or does something in the backyard. The
Mhm.
dog gets out of the gate, is returned. Then she takes the dog for a walk, and that's why the mailman didn't hear the dog bark. But I don't know. I think we need to go over the whole timeline again, witnesses, and just kind of play devil's advocate with it. Again, if you think he's guilty, 100%, he's where he needs to be. Like, us talking about it and just kind of giving another side isn't really harming anything. We're
Yeah.
just talking a case and thinking both sides.
Yeah.
So that's my rant.
And just along those lines, I don't think people realize what ends up happening to us as creators and I guess web sleuths, because I don't even consider myself like, yeah, I do the editing
Or
and
any
stuff,
kind of
but like
one for, I guess,
we
yes.
we like research. Like I consider like you a researcher before I'd be like, she's a YouTube creator. I'd be like, she's a web sleuth.
Mhm.
She researches and she's made her channel. So I don't think that people realize like when we put out like these videos and, you know, obviously true crime is very touchy with victims involved in, you know, horrible situations, especially this case, we get harassed. Like I'm just gonna flat out say it. Like, and I even in the Facebook groups, like I'm putting out that I invited people to come and give me their opinion, and they're specific to Scott Peterson groups. And I was already getting the third degree because it's like somebody said that my research is too late, basically insinuating like he's already in prison, like let it go. But I didn't go into like, well, we're redoing it. Like, there's just no point. So like we go through comments and it'll just be like negativity. And so like it doesn't bother me because I enjoy like doing this and I like going through things. But if anyone's stumbling on this video for the first time in our channels, just know that we're just going through this case and we don't think that he's innocent or guilty. And you know, if we play devil's advocate, it might annoy people, but that's just the way that we kind of have to work it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments like, I can't believe we're entertaining that he's innocent. One, I don't think that he's innocent, and even if I did, does it really matter? You know, I'm just looking at the case, and I agree. I don't think research ever really can be too old or too late to do. I don't think, like you said, we shouldn't stop researching. And if something could be done differently in future cases or done the same that they did in the Scott Peterson case for future cases, then it's interesting to still talk about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And if people can learn from this, like if you're ever on jury duty, you know, I mean, God forbid it's something terrible like this case, you would know like, okay, I need to figure out this timeline they're presenting. I can't just let these phone calls with a mistress kind of dictate my emotions. You know, like it's just a whole process, obviously. And it can't hurt to kind of go through what the justice system is about. It's better to know than to not know, because then you end up like Chris Watson taking a polygraph.
Yeah, like an idiot.
It's like that Will Ferrell gif from I can't remember the movie.
I love that one. I can't.
So yeah, this is just the outside of the warehouse, and I wish we had more details on like the hours that they were open and who was there on that day, because that to me would kind of paint more of a picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what about him saying that the power was off? It's like, and then you hear the detective on the mainstream media like, well, I called and asked when the power was out. He said the power wasn't out. Okay, that's what they said. But what if, I mean, the warehouse is like, did he call the warehouse power or just the general power? I just wonder if maybe there was something in the warehouse where it went off, or was that just a complete total lie? But I don't know. Brokini was just kind of like, made it seem very vague on who he called and asked about the power.
Yeah.
But
and that's the thing, is
he could have just lied, and if so, then yeah, why?
Exactly. And it's like, why would you think he would lie? He has no reason to lie. Well, he had no reason to hold Laci's hairbrush in his drawer without logging it into evidence for longer than he should have.
And he also omitted the witness who saw Laci at the warehouse. He was called out for not including that in the transcript or whatever.
Right, which would mean that she knew about the boat.
Yep.
And he also, what else did he do? Oh yeah, remember during the search warrant for Scott's truck, he took his firearm, and Scott didn't know until after they had left, and he calls Brokini and he's like, hey, like, did you take my gun? And Brokini was like, oh yeah, we took it. So it's like, why didn't you tell the person, like, like what? And if he, let's say, that brush was for reasons that were not good, let's say that's why he took the gun, possibly. Like, oh, we found the gun near the scene type of thing. You don't know.
Yeah. But that's interesting that he took it and didn't tell. That's not really protocol.
Yeah. There's a missing firearm, and there's a missing woman. Why is a detective taking my firearm without telling me? And that wasn't logged in evidence. It was just, maybe he was about to log it, before Chris. Jeez. We're never going to escape that case.
Yeah, I know.
No,
always.
Scott. Oh, jeez.
Right. And I think it's also just interesting to note that he did let them in the house immediately. And when is this from the warehouse? The
27th.
Okay. And that's when he said he said the power is out, the same night on the 24th? Did they go to the warehouse? Or was it the next day?
Okay, so they did the house search on the 26th, and they did this one on the 27th.
Okay. So when did he say the power was out, on the 26th?
I think they were saying that the day that they did the here, when they were here, I don't know.
Okay.
And then he shined the detective shined his headlights in or something.
Okay, that makes sense because the lights, or look off.
So this kind of gives. And I know that boats are obviously designed to go through things, and Florida was verifying and correcting that the bays are, timid waters, right?
I don't know.
So this.
I have no idea about water.
Oh. Did you get in that splash park today? Or
no.
You sat out and watched?
I just watched.
Oh my gosh. It looks fun.
Yeah, they did have fun.
Even that blow up thing you showed me in the pool, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would totally give it a go.
Maybe one day. I need to.
Yeah, just let loose. The true crime world's too heavy. You gotta let loose sometimes.
Just the water. I don't like swimming in water.
Yeah, I don't like getting my hair wet. Those days are over.
Maybe I won't. Well, I was going to say, maybe I won't. I could just not fall off of it. But I'd have to get in the water. But yeah, I should. My kids would love it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Imagine if your son recorded it too.
Yes. I recorded him today. I'll send it to you.
That's awesome. So yeah, somebody said that they wouldn't take, or Nikki P, thanks for being here. That boat doesn't look like one I would take out in the bay. I've never been to San Diego or Francisco Bay. So it's hard for me to say, and that's the thing about these cases. Hi, Shelley. I want to go into the depths of even going to the places. So someday I would love to kind of go to the bay and, walk where everything was and stuff. And it's just kind of get a grasp in person and like see the tides and all that. So
Yes, that'd be interesting.
I am phobic of sharks. I don't get in the beach water either. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I feel like now the older I get, the more scared I am to go into the ocean.
I have never liked the ocean.
I used
scares
to
me.
love it.
Like, I'll
And then
look at
now,
it, but
okay, Florida, have fun.
that's about
Love
it.
you too.
And I'm scared of tsunamis.
Thanks for all your advice.
He's going to the bar late. Going out late. I'm like shocked.
Really? You're so
like
funny.
Almost 11. I know. I'm like so
when I
old.
used to go out, I would only go out late because everything was just more entertaining because everyone at that
Yes.
point was just gone. So everything's more entertaining. And then it closes at 2 here. So, but that's hilarious. Thanks for being here, Florida. I really appreciate it. He is honestly the best person to tell me about this boat and what it could be capable of. And I believe Florida when he says that it could be possible that he put her over the side with anchors without it flipping. What do you think?
Yeah, if he says so, then I do think it seems more possible. But I want another official reenactment.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if it did get retried, if that would be something on the list of something that they would just do.
Yeah, if they could do that. I agree, Diamond Girl. And that's like amusement parks, like roller coasters now and stuff. I'm like, ew.
No, I've never been a roller coaster person.
I used to love them.
I only do Disney rides. I trust Disney, and they're not intense. Yeah, and just even then, that's not my favorite.
The swings scare me, like the roller or the swings that like swing out. Those freak me out. I've never done that.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to tell you a story about that. I'm not going to subject everybody to it, but yeah, not a good story with the swings, and I'll tell you about it. But so this is I think a good picture of the warehouse. I don't know, just the size of them, the space. So we would believe that Scott is, able to lift her up on this thing. And obviously she would be dead weight. There is nothing on the ground that looks maybe a little bit like near the boat, like here. Can you see my mouse? But it's hard to tell what things are. I mean, there's chemicals everywhere.
Right.
And speaking of chemicals, people thought and held it against Scott that he got home and washed his clothes, but he also washed rags that were there. I know International Woman. I know there's a whole video about people who have died at Disney. So I'm well aware that anything can happen, but it is the happiest place on earth. So if I'm going to go, I'd be happy to go there.
At least she went on a Disney ride. At least that's how Amber.
Oh my God.
Went out.
But, what was I? Oh yeah. So people hold it against Scott that he washed his clothes, but like, look at this place. Like, that it smells.
Yeah. Yeah. Chemicals.
I don't think that it's weird that he got home and washed his clothes with the rags that were there from the cleaning lady, like right away. I think that, being at the bay and everything, like, to me, that seems sort of normal. The only thing that's not normal about it is they had clothes that were already dirty in the room. But then I guess you could argue he doesn't like to mix those clothes with like his work clothes. I don't know.
Right. And didn't the detectives, like, he got onto them for no coaster. So it's maybe he did have a certain way. So I feel like that could go either way. But the fact that he sell fertile, or he does work in this type of environment, warehouse.
Right.
Leans like I can understand it.
With a pregnant wife. Mm-hmm. Like, if we're playing devil's advocate.
You're right.
So yeah, this was the instructions that they had pulled up in the computer forensics that he looked up for the mortiser, or had. I don't know if it was in the computer, but basically it was part of the evidence. And then that is the mortiser that he put together. And I mean, I don't know, it looks pretty elaborate, like not something that just pop, pop, pop all together. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Right. Looks
So
like, yeah.
I'm saying he obviously spent some of that time when he was hopping on and off the computer putting that together.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we don't have, like, this to me is a little bit of forensic, or not forensic, but physical evidence, you know, that it lines up with everything he's been saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the computer times are physical evidence of what was happening,
Mm-hmm.
what he was doing type thing.
Yep. It leaves a trail that is trustworthy, like computer forensics. And it showed that he was hopping on and off for, sorry about the ad, guys. So it had shown that he was hopping on and off the computer. You know, we can rely on that. So he was at certain points, you know, hands on the computer doing something. Everything in between, you can believe that he put that mortisel together or not. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah. And there was also computer activity at the home in the morning. And that's another debate because I know that Scott's family on the appeal website says it was a search for, I think, sunflower, umbrella stand,
Yep.
and clothing,
Yeah.
right? But then
a scarf.
Okay. Yeah, but then the process, and so they say that it was most likely Laci. But then I've also heard that it was all accessed through Scott's email, and there was looking up of the weather, and that those items popped up as an ad. So it's like, which one? I mean, those are kind of both sides of that.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, is it something that they can go back and kind of clarify, like as far as
Yeah.
digitally? Is the trail still able to be accessed and looked into? You know what I mean? I would say yes. If FBI and all that were on the case and they saved the files and all that, I'm sure there's something.
Right. I wonder that as well. Because in the Casey Anthony case, they did not, I think it was like Firefox. They didn't look into her browser history on that search engine, and there had been a search for foolproof suffocation. And so therefore that was never presented or used against her.
Oh my gosh.
Because they didn't catch it.
That case is a miscarriage of justice.
Yeah, and that's because they overcharged her, and the prosecution, they did a horrible job trying Casey Anthony, in my opinion. And
do you know much about the O.J. Simpson case?
No, that one, I know the basics, and I used to watch Real Housewives, and there was like a lady who was really good friends with Nicole who was on there, and they would talk about it some. But yeah, I mean, I definitely know the basics.
Yeah, well, basically, it's the same as the Casey Anthony case, in my opinion, that the prosecution just failed miserably.
Right, and then he had a good defense.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jose Baez, like, he unfortunately did a very good job, and he painted so much. I just feel like by using her family, that would be a really interesting case to cover. And then her mom, basically, in my opinion, committed perjury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely can get into Casey. And I was wondering, I was going to ask, this is almost over, everyone's opinion about us going through the Jodi Arias case.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that would entail watching the trial, because we actually have, unlike the Scott Peterson case, we actually have that video footage. So we could go through that. I mean, it's nothing. I mean, I believe she is where she needs to be, but I just find that whole story and tragedy sort of interesting to reflect on. Just
Mhm.
wondering people's opinion on that.
My opinion, I wish that Jodi had gotten the death penalty. That's just me. Because she would have had a much harder time on death row, I think. I mean, because now she's like has girlfriends, she can socialize. On death row. You can't do that. But that's just my opinion. I watched a lot of that trial because I had my first child, and then that was when Court TV was on, and they live streamed it on television, and I'd just sit and watch it.
Yeah.
While taking care of my baby, obviously. But,
also, the Casey Anthony case is video trial, I believe, too.
Yeah, that one was, streamed as well. I watched that one, but not as closely. But yeah, I remember hearing the verdict, and I was like upset. And then now that I understand it more, I do feel they probably ruled the right way with what they had. I think they should have charged her with more like abuse and stuff, and not they only fought, I can't remember what they charged her with, but it wasn't enough. But I don't think that the state proved it legally.
Yeah.
If you're really looking at it, like they did muddy the waters, and she did. She's crazy, Casey Anthony. I could go on and on about her.
Yeah, she is.
And, it's like scary that she's out.
I know. I don't know how she lives with herself. She lives with herself completely fine, too.
Exactly. Yeah. Confident and great.
That's why I feel like it. Okay, I won't get into it. We'll save it for when we cover it because that is just a whole other.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we definitely, there's so much that we can kind of comb through. I think this is the end, basically.
And that's kind of what I find interesting. As far as true crime, I like cases that are the bigger cases but have already gone to trial, and there is kind of a conclusion. And then I just like to discuss, what I think. Like some people like cold cases. I mean, I think those are interesting as well, but the ones where you can you see it play out are really, really fascinating to me.
Yeah,
they do arrest somebody.
I definitely agree that those ones where we can watch the trial too, it's like, it's not about that. And that's where things get kind of, I mean, obviously there is morbid curiosity for anyone in true crime, but the justice aspect and just, the trial and how it all works, a lot of people just love that. So I like when we can follow cases where we can watch it rather than ones where there was no camera, or like the Watts case, no trial at all.
Right. Mm-hmm. But overall, with the warehouse, I don't feel like a crime was really committed inside the warehouse. So either she was already gone by the time they got there, or,
Yep.
he didn't bring her there.
And people are going to be bothered by that, but I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think that she was dead in the warehouse either.
Mm-hmm.
Or in the truck. If people think that she was, press 1. If you're like us and you're not buying it 100%, then press 2. I just want to know people's opinion, like as we go through this stuff, like we did with the house. It's like, and I'm going to upload just the video footage that we've shown so that you guys can go back and reference and not have our commentary or whatever. Just to have.
Yeah. I'm a 2 as well. I just don't have my phone.
Yeah, no problem.
That's how I feel, Molson, man. Looking back on it, I think that with the Casey Anthony case, they rolled correctly. And probably with the Scott Peterson case, that maybe, I mean, they didn't show a lot of things.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Mrs. Kurt
Casey,
Cobain, I was just wondering, she asked what we were asking. I was just wondering if you think that Laci was put into the truck, or I mean, into the boat from the truck at the warehouse, like the prosecution alleges, or if you don't think that she was loaded there in the boat and at the warehouse. And her scent wasn't picked up at all. So let's say she was tied up and then brought there alive, you know?
mm-hmm.
Her feet to the ground, or, I mean, does he carry her through? That would be how I guess it would have to happen, because if her feet didn't touch the ground, there would be no scent probably, but there would be scent in the truck and there would be scent in the warehouse and in the boat, and there wasn't.
Right. That'd be a whole nother live we could do, is just the dog information on this case.
And it's just very, very hard, because I don't want to paint that I just agree or think that he's innocent, but I don't agree with what we've been given, the theory at this point, and we go in depth, I'm sure you guys see. So it's just going to be very interesting as we keep going and talking about this, because we have details, like you said, the dog scents, what they smelled, what they didn't smell. And then we can go through the state that her body was in and look more into stuff like tides and what they can do, and water and aqua life as far as taking organs. I mean, we're talking heart, all that was missing. So it you know, it's going to be a lot of information, but we got to go through it to kind of determine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to look at.
So I guess that's it. Do we have anything else to say, or anything you wanted to say?
Not really. I guess my major takeaways are just the timeline and the time frame where he's on the computer. No forensic evidence, just the hair. Brocchini omitted that a witness saw Laci at the warehouse prior to them, when she went missing. So yeah, I think there's just no damning evidence from the warehouse, in my opinion. And that's it.
Yeah.
The concrete anchor,
I agree.
I'm not sold on that right now either, but
yeah. And we can also agree for sure. And I've even heard people who think that he's guilty. They agree with this too. We talk about the media in this case and how absolutely, they were just out of line in so many cases, as far as headlines that were just blatant fake news. And nowadays we know a lot more about not being able to trust the media, but that back then, it wasn't, the term fake news and stuff wasn't really out there, and it wasn't questioned like it was, but not the way that it is now, so the media was just totally unfair to him. And I know that people who think he's guilty, there's been some that agree with that, and I respect that, because let's admit it, they were putting out headlines tying him to other murders that they ended up coming on being like, oh no, yeah, that wasn't true. But just to get the article sold, they were putting out ridiculous stuff. The next Peterson episode, I don't know. We could do the dogs, or we could do I don't know.
Yeah, I'm up for whatever. I think the dogs and the witnesses.
Yeah, good idea. And we can show the map of where they say they saw her. But then I've heard people say that wasn't her regular route.
Yeah,
so
and
there's always somebody to
rough
say.
terrain. Sorry, but yeah, I know they said there was kind of a hill and through woods where she would have had to go.
And let's remember how pregnant she was, you know, so would she have taken, although I was doing walks up until it got cold because it snows, so I'm not about to be out there.
No.
But okay, yeah, we'll do the witnesses and then the dog one.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
But oh no, we're just doing true crime.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, though. I really appreciate it. We're pretty much ending it, but I appreciate everybody being here, and check my community page for updates and all that. We bounce around from certain cases. So, all right. Well, thank you, Kelly, for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And we'll talk again soon for sure. So, bye. Good night.
Bye.